I didn't see, and I think this is a great time to share. We will, of course, have all of these sessions up on the web. We've got the video of them, we've got the slides, but it's not really the same as getting started with a conversation with each other. And I have found that this is can be a fun time, depending on your attitude about it. We can start talking to each other about what happened today and what you might have learned. And so I'd love to start by pulling out some themes of today. What did anybody pulling out any themes from today? Okay.
Besides technology.
Besides technology? Say that one more time. I think I missed what you were saying.
Technology.
Technology, good. That's a theme. This one doesn't really have a clip. I'm going to put it in my little pocket. Okay. But what about technology? Technology in service of our students, or technology? What kind of technologies did you hear about today?
New technologies.
Okay.
Or new technologies.
New technologies. What was new to you?
The cloud computing.
Okay. Cloud computing. Thomas, how'd that go?
Very well.
Thomas, are you in the room?
Hey, it's on a little break.
A little break.
You stepped outside.
Stepped outside for a moment. We will let Thomas know that you enjoyed the cloud computing. What else did you find that was new to you technology? Anything? Anybody else? New to you? So new to me, webcopter. What is that? Quadricopter?
Yeah. Covert surveillance. Yeah, cool.
Covert surveillance.
Everyone during defense on Mantra.
Anybody?
Well, not to brag on my sister or anything, but I knew of QR codes. I kind of knew what they were, but I didn't know how you went about creating them or using the reader's words. I mean, all the different ways that they can be created. I'd like that to be, or that they can be big or small, and that you actually have to take that into consideration.
Is anybody using QR codes in their library? A bunch of us? Good. Are they working out for you? Do you have a way to know if people are hitting them?
We use the bit.ly
Right.
QR code, so we can use the bit.ly stats.
And how are they getting hit?
Well, if anybody that was in the session for the @1 stuff this morning saw the e-reader bar. We're getting, it's one of the biggest, it's our most frequently hit live guide that goes from or LibGuide goes from the bit.ly. And a lot of those hits are from the QR code. And we did cards like this that we didn't have on the bar that disappeared.
So if y'all weren't here this morning, their library, University of Nevada, Reno, has set up a bar of e-readers. As people walk in, 1 in 37 people go and touch the e-readers, touch them, and say that they get hits off of their QR codes that are associated with that bar of e-readers. Anybody else tracking their stats? Go ahead.
It's not about tracking the stats.
Okay.
But the different ways that we're all using this technology to integrate with programmatic things on campus and as outreach. I really like the idea of the bar of, you can look at Kindle, you can look at Sony, you can look at a Nook, you can look at an iPad. That sort of stuff is just really, that's how we're using this technology to reach out and get ourselves out there.
So integrating ourselves in the community through QR codes.
QR codes, everything. Really all of that.
Anybody else about QR codes? What else? What about this quadricopter? What did everybody? Dean said we couldn't have any helicopters after that. What did you think about that? Go ahead.
I guess I like the idea of play supporting learning.
lot of us are academic librarians, but the play supporting scholarship. I feel like there was a really strong connection there between, you know, just allowing people to screw around and that turning into, you know, real opportunities for learning or for achievement in, you know, the field. It sounded like they were doing really interesting work.
Well, again, it's like with the Reno presentation, using the Connect in a way that it was not intended to, basically is a time motion study device. I mean, that's fascinating.
I missed the last part of what you were saying.
Using it as like a time motion study device, adapting it to use it in a way that the Xbox, that Microsoft probably never intended. But when they put this basically almost open device out there and people started hacking it with it, that's awesome.
I thought that also about our technology education for our staff. You know, that you kind of put stuff out there and you put ideas out there and you put tools out there for them, and then you're never sure what they're going to hack out of it. But it always is something interesting, you know, I mean, or terrible. Something. Patty.
Well, I like to be reminded by Shane at lunch that, you know, it really all goes back to customer service. The technology doesn't replace good customer service and customer relations. It just enhances it. I thought that was a, you know, really good message that whether you're using a face-to-face or internet chat or phone or Twitter or Facebook or any of these other things, that building the relationships and the customer service is really so important.
You know, it's funny because actually that's part of what Erin was saying too this morning. It's not the technology, it's the people. Which is an interesting thing for Emerging Technologies conference. It's not the technology, it's the people. What else? Keep it coming.
I mean, about the quadcopter, actually, Deborah Lee did a presentation on the 2011 Horizon Report, and
Right.
you know, one of the technologies that will have an effect in, I guess, 2 to 3 years is game-based learning. And the idea is
What based learning?
game-based
Game-based
learning. And actually a more general term for it would be experience-based learning, where the training comes not from, you know, out-and-out instruction, but from just having the freedom to, in essence, play around with something, fail as many times as you want without, you know, too much damage, until you learn to succeed. And I mean, the idea, it almost tied into what the quadcopter did, is it brought some information that someone had about the quadcopter, its capabilities and its API, into an open forum, a neutral ground, where other people could be exposed to it, learn about it, and in essence riff off of it. And being a little philosophical here,
Go ahead.
I kind of like it. The thing that's kind of jumped out to me is the idea of the library as a neutral ground, as an opportunity for liaison.
As an opportunity for what?
Liaison.
It's a loaded word around here, liaison.
That should be. But yeah, I mean, because one of the questions I was thinking, and that was the obvious question, you know, looking at the Nevada presentation was, yeah, if I had a few $1 million, I'll have that too. But, you know, neutral ground liaisons require a lot of money to have exposure to technology. I mean, libraries, as I said at the beginning, have exposure to some of the oldest technologies around, and that was their purpose, to allow exposure. And so, you know, while we can link, you know, engineering and science that people want to play around, are there opportunities to link new information from, say, history or other humanities, those people who just want to play around with that information?
Red,
Yeah,
what's your name? I'm sorry.
Josh.
Josh, sorry about that. I
Yeah,
meant to
it's
call you
fine.
Red. You have a very bright red shirt on.
Now we're, there was a conversation about doceri, that will apparently turn your iPad into a whiteboard. There were some technology issues, so we weren't able to demo it, but it seems like it would be pretty neat.
How are they doing the iPad to a whiteboard?
It uses, so I'm Steve Terry.
Hi, Steve, I'm Amanda.
Hey, Amanda. I'll admit this now, I went earlier in the day, I'm the lone IT guy. I'm actually from information technology, I'm not a librarian, but earlier in the day, I wouldn't admit that because, I've been tarred and feathered, you know, some of the conversation I heard. But,
We like IT guys. I do.
It didn't just, but it uses, what we call a remote desktop protocol behind the scenes to do the whiteboard between your iPad and desktop PC, whether it's a Mac or PC.
I'm trailing off there. So it's using the remote desktop protocol.
Behind the scenes to turn your iPad and the projector and classroom PC into the actual whiteboard component. So no longer do we need that product called Symposium
Right.
to touch and draw with crazy pens. We can do it all, annotate, move, do all sorts of things. And the great thing about it is it frees you up from standing in the front of the room like you are now, and I can come sit over here with Dr. Lee, and we can have a conversation, and we're seeing all that happening on the screen.
So you have a tablet or something that you're writing on and
iPad.
projects it onto the screen.
It's a piece of hardware called doceri, D-O-C-E-R-I. No, just D-O-C-E-R-I.
Sorry. And the hardware plugs into what? I'm just
The
curious.
iPad.
I don't mean to into that.
iPad.
Cool.
But if you don't mind, let me add my 2 cents as a technologist in
Add it.
technology. So, Aaron Schmidt, it's not technology, it's people. Well, of course, that's it. But think about all the opportunities that we now have with cloud tools, Web 2.0 tools, that we didn't have 10 years ago. And so, from my perspective, it's a little bit about the technology because now we have all these choices. And as Dr. Lee pointed out in her session, we've got future choices that are even more impactful. So, to a certain extent, it is a little about the technology. I would say that I'm biased, but it extends that experiential interaction, the people stuff that we're talking about. It now makes it accessible to anyone. You don't have to come to a person like me to get access. You go download it for free. And that's a big game changer as far as I'm concerned. No longer are IT people the specialists, we're still going to control some of the jobs. But it opens up the world to everyone. And I think the fact that we have that ability now, and we didn't have that 10 years ago, and most of this stuff, not only is the ubiquity there, but the cost is so low, makes it incredible from my perspective.
This is sort of also LibGuides. Do you have LibGuides at your university?
Yeah.
So people get in and change things there. Anything in particular that you were thinking about in terms of technology choices? Cloud computing, you mentioned. Everything. Good. Anybody else excited what things they learned today? Duncan.
Learning and libraries as learning resources. Somebody had mentioned learning commons or learning center. An example, getting back to the quadricopter, is in the Connect is we have student assistants, and we basically give them these things and say, and they actually for the Connect file, they were waiting with bated breath for the API to come out, and every day we're going in to see if it was out. One of our students that in the slideshow I did, I showed several student assistants. 3 weeks ago, one of those guys is now making $80,000 a year at a place called Google. And so they actually called him and said, we've seen some of the stuff you're doing, we'd like to interview you. So, you know, and they just learn and they love it.
That's amazing. That's kind of a selling point right there.
Yeah, I have to qualify, that's actually the second person that's been recruited out of that one, for the second student worker.
They've clearly got their eye on you.
Yeah, well, we're
And
doing
you've
this.
got the helicopters. My God, I would have my own.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is the way that, when you mentioned the staff engagement with the e-reader bar working on it, part of the problem is when you put it out there and say, go play with it, staff, everyone is shy, they never go out there. But one of the things that works really well with these kids is by having them become the experts, and sort of deprecating the staff somewhat and the faculty. The staff are kind of forced to step up their game, and they'll actually engage and begin playing with it. And that's also working well with the faculty on campus. When they see the kids there in the library doing it, the faculty that are doing the interesting and awesome things come and find you, and they hang out in the space as well. So that's a win for the library.
It's a win. So what ideas are you going to bring home that you want to steal today? I heard a lot of ideas from Shane about about Twitter and staying engaged. I get tired. Does anybody else update some kind of social media for their work? Get tired doing it? Like updates. I think the people that are innovators, that are like implementing stuff, are not necessarily like the day in, day out, like worker bees of the social networking system. I don't know that I am a worker bee.
But
I
I
try.
like you said about it not having to be just about a new database or
Right.
an event happening, that, you know, certainly you wanted to push that stuff. And part of what he felt made his engagement successful was that he was also talking about what his followers wanted to talk about. And, you know, one of the things that MSU Libraries was talking about the last couple of years is being where the students are, which is why we started on Facebook and Twitter. So I think what he's saying really is going that next step, not just being there and reminding them, oh, the library is here where you are we cool? No. But to really sort of talk about the things that they want to talk about, which, you know, last night we were doing with it, there was a hashtag for, you know, tips for MSU freshmen. And,
That was
you
so
know,
fun.
So sort of thinking about the things that they're thinking about and being a part of that. And then, oh, by the way, you know, come to the library because we're open until midnight this week, or Einstein's is back open.
It was the most awesome conversation. It was like the athletic director of MSU, tons of people across campus, Patty, student president, and it was all this MSU freshman tips was the hashtag. And people just like it ran all day yesterday, all night last night. People just kept coming in with stuff.
And I think what you found out is that once, you know, one thing was said about the library, and then other people took it and ran with it. The athletic director follows the library's tweets and, you know, re-supports them in the student association. So then these other people were saying, oh yeah, and by the way, the library is a great place to study or take a nap.
I thought this morning, even it was just a plain retweet, just automatically.
Yeah, so I think that was good.
Deborah, you were going to say something?
Well, I was going to say that I watched that thread start on Wednesday, and it started with an alumni who was telling students things, and then some of the stuff would not be necessarily stuff we wanted to, because he was telling students how to show up in class, and pick out girls, and how to, you know, but it started, that's how that thread started, and he even announced that he was going to do that, that he was going to tell that. And
So
then
I started an account, MSU freshman tips.
and we'll break it up.
It's pretty fun thing. But paying attention to your community and engaging in your community, not just promoting yourself. I guess that would make it more, you know, it has to sort of become part of your life, it seems like. It can't just be like a thing that you do. To keep it
I
going.
think that Amy and Lee, but, you know, I would say that they are, you know, their sort of theme of taking baby steps. They're not nearly as far along as some of the others of us are. I think it was also nice to kind of be reminded that it doesn't really matter where you start or when you start, the important thing is that you start. And, you know, that they were not letting small staff and no money stopped them, you know, they were gonna get out there and try, and clearly they learned, I think, you know, more than they ever imagined. But I like being reminded too that, you know, we all started with baby steps at one point.
All right, so 5 o'clock today, we're going to be doing anything final. And then this document's going to go up on the website. We're also going to put up all the video of all the sessions. You can see the ones that you missed. We'll have the slides and the handouts, whatever it was. I think we're going to put together some of the URLs that were coming out of the different things and see if we can probably get them into this document, just sort of notes that are coming out of the meeting from some of the tweets were coming out of the meeting. So, does anybody else have any questions? Patty?
I just have one comment on behalf of the MSU libraries and the committee. I would like to thank you, Amanda.
But I hope that y'all will come at 5 to a restaurant, Tyler. We're going to be having more of this kind of conversation with also some adult beverages. We're not